The Second World War is considered as being one of the greatest and bloodiest wars ever fought in human history. This historic war featured numerous fierce and mind-blowing battles that ensued between the Allied forces and the Axis power from the beginning of the war in 1939 till its very end in 1945. Today on WarZone, we've detailed all of the historic battles that took place during World War II, the tactics, strategies, and use of grand weaponry that were the hallmarks of the war. You absolutely want to watch this video till the very end. Make sure to give this video a like, hit the subscribe button and smash that notification bell to receive updates on when we post more intriguing war videos like this one. Do leave us a comment as well, as we'd love to hear your opinions on the different battles that were fought during World War I. First off, the Battle of the Atlantic. The Battle of the Atlantic was one of the earliest battles fought in World War II. This battle began in September 1939 and spanned till May 1945, making it one of the longest military campaigns of the Second World War. This battle was fought majorly to determine which country would gain control of the Atlantic shipping lanes. The battle involved thousands of ships and vessels spread across the vast ocean. When the battle initially broke out, the German Navy made use of submarines to deliver devastating damage to British convoy ships, while the British Navy countered their attacks with enormous warships. As the battle progressed, the US provided the British Navy with 50 Piper destroyers in exchange for using British bases in the Caribbean. The United States eventually joined the war when Japanese troops attacked its naval fleet at Pearl Harbor in 1941. The Allied forces encountered greater resistance from the Germans in 1942, when German U-boats sank over 1,000 Allied aircraft and ships in the Atlantic. However, the tide of the battle turned when US destroyer ships were introduced to the battle by Britain. The destroyer ships were efficient in taking down German U-boats due to their sophisticated technology, which enabled them to detect U-boats either on the surface or submerged. The Allied forces made huge progress during the battle when they captured a German submarine in 1944. The submarine contained the ENIGMA code machine and books, which allowed the Allied forces to decipher German codes and improve their strategy against the Germans. In 1945, Germany would eventually surrender after over 2,700 Allied ships had been lost to German attacks from the beginning of the war. A combined total of 130,000 sailors lost their lives in the Battle of the Atlantic. Battle of Britain. The Battle of Britain was an air battle between the German forces and the British, spanning between July and October 1940. The Battle of Britain was the first major military campaign that was fought entirely in the air, and it saw the British Royal Air Force and the German Luftwaffe fully test their prowess in the air. The Germans had one of the greatest and most superior air force in Europe in the 1940s, and ready to test out their strength against the British Air Force in their attempt to gain access over southern Britain and the English Channel. The battle began when German air fleets attacked southeast England and some settlements in western and northern Britain while trying to destroy British radar installations and airfields. The German Air Force had over 1,350 bombers and 1,200 fighters stationed to attack Britain. Although German forces were superior in numbers, their bombers suffered greater damage from inferior RAF attacks and Hurricane fighter attacks to the British. The Germans would eventually lose the battle due to poor bombing tactics and inadequate training of its pilots. The battle reached its peak on September 15, 1940, when the German Air Force lost over 56 planes while the British lost an additional 28 planes in a single day. Over the entire course of the battle, 1,733 German aircraft were destroyed. 2,662 pilots had died from both sides, and 6,000 pilots were wounded. These heavy losses prompted Hitler to reconsider German tactics and postpone the invasion of Britain. Battle of Okinawa. The Battle of Okinawa is regarded as the largest combination of sea, land, and air battle in history. The battle lasted from June 1st to June 22nd, 1945, between America and Japan. The US had over 300 warships and 1,139 others that were used to carry troops to the island of Okinawa. It was reported that over 1,300 Okinawa citizens died, 74,000 Americans perished in the battle, and over 107,000 Japanese fatalities were likewise recorded. The US plan was to capture Okinawa to win the war in the Far East and destroy the remaining Japanese fleet by using the airfields to launch air raids on Japan's industrial hubs. General Ushijima of the Japanese forces moved 130,000 Japanese troops to the southern sector of the island and placed them in structured, secure fortifications. The US tried to engage the Japanese in frontal assault to capture these fortifications but failed. The Japanese enlisted suicide pilots called kamikaze as part of their defenses. The kamikaze launched 193 suicide plane attacks, which destroyed 169 units of the American carrier fleet. But many kamikaze attacks were countered by the US Army. On the 4th of April, the most intense battle of Okinawa unfolded on the far south of the island, when US troops ran into the Mashinato line, which halted their advance. Although they eventually broke the line a few weeks after, they ran into the Shuri line, which slowed them again. The kamikaze damaged over 66 warships and sunk 21 others in the south. By April 20th, the Japanese resistance in the north of Okinawa had been eradicated. The Japanese lost over 4,000 aircraft and 16 of her ships were destroyed in the Battle of Okinawa after losing to the US. The Siege of Leningrad. The Siege of Leningrad began in September 1941 and ended in January 1944. The siege lasted over 900 days between German invaders and the Soviet army. It was reported that over 700,000 people, in a population of 2.5 million, died in the blockade due to bombardment, cold, and starvation. The German invaders attacked the city of Leningrad with artillery shells, and Hitler had planned an event to celebrate his victory, as he speculated that Leningrad would fall like a leaf. German aircraft bombers dropped propaganda leaflets over the city, claiming that residents would starve if they didn't surrender. The Germans were initially repelled by the Soviet defenses and couldn't occupy the city, so they set up a blockade and cut off the city from Russia. The Germans also attacked the city supply lines in the air and river. The nearest railhead to the city also fell to the Germans, and power stations were also destroyed. The city suffered severe food shortages, and by December, over 52,000 people had died due to hunger and exposure to the harsh winter. A 200-mile road out of the city was constructed by thousands of Leningrad residents and was dubbed the Road of Life, but food and fuel supplies that came through the road were insufficient. The siege eventually ended when the Germans withdrew their army westward as the Soviets forcefully drove them out of Leningrad. Soviet authorities awarded its people the Order of Lenin to commemorate their bravery and endurance during the harrowing siege.